Well, hello everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Oxford Business Insights podcast. Today, I'm delighted to be talking to Ben Moss, founder of Montgomery Hospitality, and we're going to be talking about career pivots, building two very different pub businesses, staff retention, and somewhat brutal economics of hospitality in 2026. So today's episode is about not only what it takes to build great pubs, not just great food, but great teams, great communities, and resilience in the face of rising costs. Ben, thanks for joining us. Thanks for giving your time. Really looking forward to hearing your story.
Thank you, Nick. It was lovely to be here, and I appreciate it.
Excellent. Well, Ben, before we get stuck into sort of like the current operation, your background wasn't perhaps traditional coming into hospitality, although you have a family connection. So can you tell us a little bit about your background and your journey before you went into Montgomery Hospitality?
Yeah, I'd love to. So, I grew up in and around the hospitality business by way of my parents back in the 80s and 90s had two restaurants. One was called Drake's, and that was in Pond Place in South Ken.
Yeah.
And the other was 190 Queensgate, and just off High Street, Kensington. And I was a mini person back then, so I used to play behind the bar, which you wouldn't be
Yeah.
allowed to do these days. Catching fruit flies, not disrespecting my father's upkeep of his bar, and sort of hiding in the dessert section on the first floor,
Yeah.
stealing brandy snaps every time they were put on the kitchen counter. Um, and I just loved it. I was brought up in that world, and my father then went sort of moved on to wine. So he worked with a chap called Michael Druitt
Hmm.
and imported Perrier Jouet into the country first time in Brown Brothers, and that was fun, sort of playing in the wine shop with sawdust on the floor, and the
Yeah.
sights and the sounds and the smells is something that I've never forgotten. Um, and as I was growing up, he'd started this charity called Springboard UK, which, when it started, was just focused on a program called Future Chefs, which was about taking young students around the UK and putting them into this competition. But it was only really 250 students in London. And you look at this year, Springboard, I think the other day they said to me they had over 15,000
Wow.
youngsters from around the UK. So I've sort of been brought up in how hard the business is and
Yeah.
what it takes for people to make their way. Um, Very early on, I did a stint in hospitality, working as a barman, and worked my way up to bar manager. And I was a little bit naughty, fibbing about my age,
Right.
which is why that career suddenly stopped when the owner of Troubadour in South Ken found out I was not old enough for the insurance. Um, and that was a very swift ending. Um, but I loved it, and it's kind of one of those things you think should be mandatory for
Yeah.
any teenager is do a stint in hospitality because of what it teaches you.
Yeah.
Um, and after that, I've blagged my way into an American university because I didn't have A levels. I
Yeah.
sort of left school, I left the school system, blagged my way in, and was about 2, 3 years into that degree and found myself suddenly doing music videos. I don't know how it happened, but that's what happened. And that career path took me 20 years later to setting up broadcast and production, post-production agencies, joint ventures all around the world.
Right.
Very fortunate to travel as a producer to far-flung places, and then as to sort of like head of broadcast, head of operations in San Francisco, Singapore, Hong Kong, and mainland China. Um, and it was wonderful and a huge experience. And I learned an awful lot from managing crews of 110 on a film shoot
Yeah.
to some of the less exciting things like HR, GDPR, staff security. Um, but throughout those years, it was always in the background that I just lingered to be in hospitality. I wanted
Yeah.
to, be in and out of kitchens and looking after people in a different way. And I think over the years, the longing to have customers rather than clients just got stronger and stronger. And
Interesting.
yeah,
Really interesting.
and
And
that's then there was a flip.
yeah. And so when did the flip sort of occur? And it does seem to me, I could be wrong here, Ben. It does seem to me it's the total hospitality experience. So some people are very much in the chef or maybe even the wine part of it. But it does seem to me with you that is the all round experience, not just having necessarily just the best food. It's the whole experience.
Yeah, I I'd agree totally. I think being fortunate enough to be able to go to some really amazing places to eat, um, and then everywhere else,
Yeah,
having been brought up in it and how my parents took such pride in even just having like a friend over for a cup of tea and hosting. I think
yeah,
that was the thing. I got brought up hosting.
right.
Um, and much to the detriment of my teenage years, um, and trying to be the cool kid, I wasn't, because every time I went to someone's house party and people were taking beer and Archers and Malibu, I was there turning up with Chablis, and wasn't the coolest kid in the world, or turning up with cheese and biscuits. I was a bit of a loser then. Um, but I think it just that general feeling of looking after people and
Yeah,
and caring for what you put in front of them and that their reactions from it, and the dream of going into restaurant pubs wasn't just standing behind the bar. It was
yeah,
welcoming people and watching people come in hangry
yeah,
and go away very happy.
yeah,
And that's all encompassing, right? That's
yeah,
not just being good at the table or having good
yeah.
food go out. There's a lot more to it.
Excellent. Okay, so what sort of time? When are we talking about that you sort of seriously considered getting back? Let's say going back to hospitality, or at least launching your own business. Because that's still quite a big leap from being the music video and in the broadcast and production arena.
Yeah. So I think, Nick, actually, I don't. Well, there was one specific turnaround, but I think, to be really honest, it never left.
Right.
Um, and even when I met my wife and we were talking about, well, just the courting, the who
Yeah.
am I and she knew right from the beginning. At one point in my life, I wanted to pack up what I was doing and see if
Yeah.
there was a way for me to have a restaurant. So it never left.
Okay.
I think that the exact turning point was I was working for this really lovely guy, building up a news channel for him for an oil commodities firm,
Mm.
podcast and
Yeah.
and vlogs. And I was loving it, but it was sort of post COVID, and I was in a dark room looking at lots of monitors, and it just suddenly, well, not even suddenly, I was like, the spark's gone.
Yeah.
It's gone. I can't. That creativeness from advertising had disappeared, and I'd really just turned into business mode. And while I enjoy it, um, I wasn't out there interacting with people anymore. Um, and I wasn't having fun.
Yeah.
And over the years, seen this sort of, I guess, decline in high street restaurants and pubs where it used to be very, very welcoming. Even my locals where I live used to go in and used to know who
Yeah.
was there, and there was a guarantee of the consistency of the food. And I felt that was disappearing, and I kind of thought, let me have a go at this. And I went home, looked very sad, and I said, "Can I talk to you, darling?" And she went, "Oh God, it's now, isn't
No,
it?
it's
You want
now.
you want to buy a pub?" And I went, "Yes." So then the journey started.
Okay. Okay, so there's one thing making that decision, and then there's next thing finding the Lamb and Little Milton as your
Yeah,
first operation. So talk us a little bit. Were you at Oxfordshire based? Because obviously you were brought
no,
up in South London.
yeah. So well, living in West London, and parents sort of about an hour and 40 Gloucestershire way.
Right.
Um, but when I started looking, I was sort of looking at areas that were beautiful and were lovely, areas surrounding. And I knew that I didn't, because I've done a lot of driving and traveling in my time. If I went beyond an hour
Yeah.
and I was commuting every day, because I didn't want to leave what I have in London, because that took a long time to build up. Um, an hour took me into Oxfordshire, and Oxfordshire's beautiful. And actually, if you look at Oxfordshire, on South Oxfordshire in detail, there are a lot of great pubs, but there aren't loads of them
Yeah.
compared to somewhere like the Cotswolds, where it's a little bit more saturated. And because of that number, um, they're not as expensive. Um, and you don't have operators like Dalesford, Bamford Family, and other
Yeah.
existing pub groups who are moving into properties and can drop a fair amount at it.
Yeah.
I had to find properties that needed work but weren't going to just sort of kill us financially
Yeah.
immediately. Um, and so we started talking to agents in that area, and we're getting lots of stuff through online. What I was focused on was um, finding somewhere that had bricks and mortar as an investment. So we weren't going to take a lease because
Yeah.
of the cost of beers, and it just
Yeah.
needed to be the investment. So smallish property, not so big that if I went wrong, we had empty tables. So I
Yeah.
wanted it to sort of feel full. Um, I wanted somewhere that had a nice outside. I didn't want rooms because this was my first jump into it. So
Yeah.
it needed to be something that, if the original ideas of what I wanted to put on the table went wrong, could it be somewhere where it could revert back to more really accessible food? And we got a brochure through for the Lamb. It was the first one that we went to see.
Right.
The existing food that the lovely couple that were running it, Ian and Des, they were doing Des's beef pie, they were doing samosas, they were doing sandwiches, and they had really decent footfall and the numbers were
Yeah.
good. Um, and it just so happened that it was in this lovely area where down the road you had Le Manoir,
Yeah.
so Raymond Blanc's little Airbnb, and then some really other lovely restaurants, as well as some
Yeah.
more sort of drinkers pubs. And when we went to see it, initially it just so felt so homely. The two guys who ran it, it was so warm and inviting. And it also reminded me of my grandfather's house when he was
Okay.
around. And it had a lovely vibe to it. And I know it's a funny thing to say, a vibe, but if people who've been looking to rent or buy somewhere and you go into a house and it doesn't feel right,
Yeah.
doesn't matter what it looks like, you just
You know.
walk away. And this just, you know it. And this was just, it was a happy feeling. It was a very happy feeling. Um, and it was almost to the point where we were just like, let's do this. The area's great, it's the right size, it looks good. At the time, not a lot needed to be done to it. Little did I know. But we put an offer on and we were gazumped by someone local who just went full in at cash asking, and we just couldn't get anywhere close
Right.
to that. So we lost it, and we spent, yeah, a good year and a half, 2 years still
So
looking.
this has taken us up to what, 2023 sort of time?
Oh gosh, Nick, I should have done my homework for you, but yes, that sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, but this turned around. So, tell us how this. So you didn't
Um,
find anywhere else in the intervening period that you had the same feeling about.
no, lots of places up towards Gloucestershire and Banbury, really lovely looking places, just a little bit too far, too big, too
Yeah.
much work, didn't have the funds for it. Um, and then I was away with my wife and my parents, in fact, um, in Italy, eating and drinking and just devouring red wine and fatty foods. And we got a phone call from the agent who said that the owners had found out on a dog walk, bless them, that the guy who'd put in the original bid had said, no, I can't be bothered with it anymore, and not bothered, but he'd walked away from it.
Yeah.
And so they were obviously in a bit of state, kind of, well, we've got ready to pack up our lives and move elsewhere. And so I said, I'll call you back. I went off and had a cigarette because I was smoking at the time, walking around in circles, came back and said to my wife, I think we can do this. and we put in a little bit of a lower offer, and it was accepted 5 minutes later.
Very good.
Um, and so that was it. We were into paperwork.
Very good. So, you got your hands on it in the end, and how long did it take to actually sort of before you walked in the door as the owner?
Yeah, so it wasn't actually that long. So that was, I think, August, September. Paperwork was done November, December, and then we took a little bit of time because we had a bereavement in the family.
Okay.
So we actually had the bereavement in the family around the same week that we completed on it, and so there was a bit of a pause because that was a bit of a shocker, and we needed to concentrate on ourselves during that period. Um, and then when we did eventually get down there, it was the planning because it was quite out of the blue.
Yeah.
We weren't. We had the offer. We completed pretty quickly. That happened, and then when we got in the property, then it was time to start envisioning it because we
Yeah.
didn't have time to really go down and nitpick about
Yeah.
stuff. Um, so as soon as we got the keys properly, I think we turned it around in about 2 months, two, three
Right.
months. It was pretty quick.
Okay. And just for people that haven't been there, describe what your vision, what it is to deliver at the Lamb. We'll come on to your other operation shortly, but what's your vision for it, and what were the challenges in realising that vision?
Sure. So I think for those who haven't been there, it was built in 1542. So she's a very old building. She's
Yeah.
beautiful. She's thatch. She's got a lovely patio and a couple of more modern outbuildings. And we've got uh, all the old paperwork from the sale and the advertising of its sale at 1847, which is
Right.
what's up on the hanging board outside. Inside, we haven't changed much. From what it looks like when you walk in. So it's still got dark green carpet on the floor, the brickwork's exposed, the beams are there. There's a little wood burner in one of the rooms. It's very small, so it's four tables at the fireplace end, and then there's
Yeah.
a bar in the middle, and there's sort of beams that you have to duck under to get into each section, and then there's another four tables by the entrance and the kitchen. And we purposely didn't want to change it because it's incredibly cozy. There's
Yeah.
sort of curtains are almost completely outdated and twee, but it suits it, so we've not changed it. Um, we just wanted it to be that an
Yeah.
inviting ye old pub. Um, but it was the offering that was going to be the thing that
Yeah.
hopefully made it stand out. Um, in terms of the immediate challenges going in, beer cellar, aircon unit didn't work, that to get replaced. We started pulling the kitchen out, and um, I mean decades of things that weren't quite right. And so we were just going to replace the equipment, but as soon as we started pulling it out, we realized that if we wanted to get a 5 out of 5 hygiene rating, the kitchen had to go and we had to rebuild it.
Right.
So then when that started, we had the asbestos scare,
Oh,
the
yeah.
electric scare, because it's grade 2, you can't drill in anything, right? So like all the electrics are sort of
Yeah.
over the beams, and so the electrics was a huge undertaking, as well as the plumbing, um, and various other things that went wrong while we were refurbing it. Um, but in terms of the offering, yeah, it was just about trying to get my vision into place in the site that we had without revamping it because I just didn't want to. Because I'm a big believer in that sort of heritage and the
Yeah.
story of where you are, and it's the same with the bat and ball. We've
Yeah.
we've not changed a huge amount, so it was down to like what drinks are going to be behind the bar, and what does the glassware look like, and how comfortable is it to hold, and what
Yeah.
does the cutlery look like, and the ceramics and all those tiny weeny little things, the
Yeah.
pepper mills, what color, what tone, how big. what the water glass is going to look like, as well as getting in a kitchen in a very small space that could do. Um, the magic number for us was going to be 50, 60 covers a day. So not
Right.
many, but a lot for what for the
Size.
kitchen size that we've
Yeah.
got. Yeah.
Okay. And so when did you first opened? And just interested, how did you that go down with the community? I mean, because obviously it's an important part of the village that's there. Did you have problems with the community, or were they very welcoming, or how did?
Yeah, I mean, the short version is I learnt an awful lot very quickly that I implemented on the bat and ball to have a
Yeah.
smooth opening.
Okay.
Uh, I mean, do you know, in hindsight, it's much like if you had a neighbor doing a lot of work and they didn't tell you what they were doing or how long it was going to take, you get really peeved off.
Yeah.
Um, I underestimated um, the asset of community value that it was
Yeah. Okay.
massively. So as far as the locals were concerned, some chap from London's just bought their local pub and he's not even there and he's not introduced himself. They don't know who he is. What
Yeah.
is he going to turn it into a pizza restaurant? What's he going to do with it?
Yeah.
Um, and then they see lots of equipment coming in and out. They're none the wiser. Is it going to be like a I mean, they just didn't know anything. Um, that's the start of what never do.
Yeah.
Never ever do. So at the other site, we did tours. Anytime people wanted, we took them around the whole site.
Yeah.
Um, so when we opened, I think it was a bit of a shock. And it was a bit of a shock to people who were regulars, not necessarily locals,
Yeah.
who were expecting Coors beer at £4, £85, and going in and having cheese and tomato sandwich with crisps on the side.
Yeah.
And that was not our plan. Um, Not a sustainable plan. And so when we opened, there was not a lot of backlash, but there was, oh, well, that beer's quite expensive and we don't know what that wine is. And, oh, you should really get that in. You should have this on the menu and you should get this
Everybody knows
done.
how to run a pub.
Everybody knows how to run a pub. Everyone's got an opinion. And you just have to kind of I learned that over the first 6 months. You just got to
Yeah.
stand your ground,
Yeah.
because if you really believe the vision is right,
Yeah.
if you get proved wrong, you get proved wrong. But if you're right, everyone accepts it. And thankfully, it took a while. Took first 3 months for the drinkers, who were in the area. The locals, they just knew straight away on opening night what we were about.
Yeah.
We had the kind of music we were going to play. We had beautiful stemware. The wines were not expensive, but they were good.
Yeah.
And the staff, thank goodness, on the opening day, they were all just like top notch staff. And yeah, we were welcomed pretty quickly. I think it was the surrounding
Big areas.
locals
Yeah.
who don't. I mean, at the time, the demographic was people who wouldn't necessarily want to go on Google and have a look.
Yeah.
They just know where they go and they drive in and they go, what?
What's
What's
happened?
happened?
Yeah.
What's happened? And so we had an awful lot of people. We had about a year's worth of people coming in. Oh, we're just looking for a sandwich or a soup, and getting really angry and being like, well, can't you make one? And you're like, well, it's not on the menu. I'm sorry, but can't you make it? And you're like, well, we buy the ingredients for what's on the menu. I can't make you a tasty sandwich. I'm really sorry. Um, that trickled out over a year, and then after a year, people knew, thank goodness. But yeah, it took a little while, and I learned my lessons.
Okay. And tell me a bit about the staff, because I know you've put a lot of emphasis on a huge emphasis on getting the team right and things. Was that a
Yeah.
challenge to start off with? Because I would imagine the staff that were there before, presumably, you had to learn quite different routines, or was it all new stuff?
Well, it was all new staff, and I think mostly because, and unfortunately, at the moment when you're reading about a pub a day, which is probably not, I can tell you more about that later. It's more
Yeah.
like 4 or 5 pubs a day.
Yeah.
Those are lifestyle pubs. Those are
Yeah.
drinkers pubs. So those, that's what the previous owners were. They lived upstairs. They came down in the morning. They opened up. Des was in the kitchen. Ian was behind the bar, and they had a youngster from the village help them when it was busy. But the menu wasn't huge,
Yeah.
huge. So it was a sort of two-person operation and one front of house and two when it was busy. Um, we were closed for long enough that the young ones were at university.
Yeah.
Um, Ian Des obviously not around. Um, but I managed to get some local people, one who was with me for 3 years as of about 3 months ago. And he started off just helping me sweep the courtyard every day to keep it tidy until we
Right.
opened. And um, I was just very lucky that these were sort of very humble, very relaxed, but really customer focused. And they really understood what the idea was in terms of being hospitable to people and what that meant and what that looked like, and they got it. So I was very lucky when we first opened.
Very good. Okay, so this got up and running. And was there a point when you thought, yeah, this is going to work? I mean, clearly you had your vision, you delivered that pretty much my opening day. But was there a thing? Yeah, this is going to work. Was how long did that take to get to that point?
It was when the first chef left and my exec chef joined.
Okay.
That was exactly that. So we had a chef who, um, oh man, such a shame. She was the most talented chef um, that I'd come across in a long time. I mean, I know it sounds funny having just opened a pub for the first time, but I've met a lot
Yeah,
of chefs
yeah.
and
That's that.
um, just such a talent. I had help from a lovely friend of mine called Ruth Hanson, she's a spectacular chef in the industry at the moment. She's got an amazing restaurant up north called Beadle's, and she's incredible. And she was around helping me trial chefs. And this lady came, and she was incredible, but very quickly um, was putting us up against a corner in terms of her attitude and drive. So we had days where she wasn't accepting me taking in walk-ins, should refuse to cook for certain
Oh, yeah.
things. And I was like, I'm not making enough money here.
Yeah.
We're not doing enough covers. And there was a guy who, well, the guy, so Nat Burney, who had been cooking at Manoir. He was then working at a restaurant down the road that was high-end French. He wanted to leave. And I was talking to him about it, and he said, look, I could give you cover for 2, 3 months while I'm looking for somewhere else if you want to press the button on your current chef.
Yeah.
So I did, and he joined. And within about 3 weeks, I think we were both sort of like brothers from another mother, to use the phrase, of how we got on, how we understood each other, how we worked together. He really understood the vision that it wasn't just the lamb, I wanted more, and what I wanted to give people when they walked through the door. And we bonded over that. We realized we were on the same path, or that his path could sort of veer and sort of match with mine. And as soon as we developed that first menu and the feedback we were getting, I suddenly got this second motivation of, right, let's do this. This is it. I upped my game another level. We were just bouncing off each other. I got onto the socials better. I think I was just really proud of
Excellent.
what was there.
Very good. Okay. And so, in terms of actually, let's stick with the lamb just for a moment. So, the lamb has now achieved Michelin recognition. Does that change things materially for you? Do people come and find you from further afield? I mean, it's obviously nice to have and sort of an endorsement of the quality of your operation and the food you deliver. But does it change things?
Um, yeah, it absolutely changes things. I think the first thing which sort of, well, look, we got the Michelin. I got drunk. I woke up the next morning. I was terrified because
It's a
you
little bit
go,
of a
oh,
theme emerging sometimes. Red
right,
wine on holidays and
red wine. I know. Maybe I should drink more. This is the thing. Um, so we it sort of it came as a massive surprise. Okay, I
right.
mean, we you don't know if you don't have one
Yeah,
before, you don't know if they're on your radar.
yeah,
And you don't know because they're very good at not letting you know. And we don't know if they came 4 times or 7 or 8 times.
Right.
And then when you get it, you're like, oh my God, big party. You wake up in the morning and you go, oh my goodness, because now the expectation has changed dramatically. And I went into work the next day and everybody's excited. And they're like, right, do we get, oh, let's get some smart uniforms. Let's go from t-shirts to shirts. And Nat was saying, oh, we should get better ceramics and make everything look, and I just had this, it was literally a split second moment. I said, stop. We've just been given Michelin guide because of what we've been doing over however many months that they've
Yeah.
been coming to visit us, which is delivering the best plates we can every day with the best service, wearing jeans, t-shirts, and trainers, because that's part of the
Yeah.
feel and the vibes that we want to give. Really good place to come, but super chill, right? So
Yeah.
I've said it loads of times before. Farmer, smelly dog at the bar, next to a table having a bottle of Bordeaux and having a Cote de Boeuf.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
think we use the phrase elevated dining without the intimidation that you get in some places. For
I love it.
yeah,
I love it. Absolutely.
yeah,
So we had to say we're not going to change anything. The thing that did change overnight was who's coming.
yeah,
And that was a very different, that was quite a big step in change of attitude of people who were coming in. So word of mouth originally, people going, expecting good food, but knowing that it's a
mm,
pub serving elevated dining, restaurant in a pub. But then when you get on the app, people go, oh, there's Michelin guide, let's go. They may not do that much research. They might just look
yeah,
at the menu and go, we're going to go. And then they walk in. And we have this still with new customers. So many people, when you go, hi, how can I help? Table of two, it's booked under this. And you're wonderful. And you go, how are you? And they say, well, we're okay for the moment, but we'll let you know later. Which is just to me still a mind-blowing way to walk into somewhere, almost setting yourself up for disaster. But luckily,
yeah,
99% of people, touch wood,
yeah.
go leave very happy. So the only thing that really changed um, was the people coming in and
So,
the
in a sense,
expectation.
people
Yeah.
going out of their way to come to you because of that.
Well said. Yeah. People are traveling from further and further.
Yeah,
And so they want to know that they're getting the experience, but it's very hard to let them know on the app or the Michelin site. You're coming to a pub.
yeah,
It's still a pub at the end of the day, and
yeah.
that's it. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Okay, well, so that sort of tells us a bit of the story of the lamb, and I will mention for viewers that very recently Raymond Blanc noted the lamb as one of his top five Oxfordshire eating venues. So you've reached the well, in my view, the sort of the pinnacle of the chefing world, as rating you very very highly. I also know he's also always been supportive of local Oxfordshire venues,
Massively. Yeah.
businesses.
He's a amazing guy in the industry, and actually was also very supportive of Springboard UK.
Oh, excellent! Yeah.
And he does an awful lot of work outside of being in the kitchen. So yeah, he's a
No,
top bloke.
that's great. But look, let's move on because you've now what prompted you, and I think I could sense when you said a few minutes ago when you started working with that you elevated your experience. Is that where the ambition to have another venue because you now have the bat and ball in Cuddesdon? So tell us a bit about that. Why you decided to take on the second larger venue?
So I think the decision to have a second venue was part of the plan prior to getting the first.
Right.
So um, if I wanted to have a stab at doing okay in this industry, financially, I knew one site wasn't going to be enough.
Okay.
Um, and so back then, the plan was to be 3 or 4
Right.
sites, all independent of each other in terms of the offering, but all very consistent and centralized in terms of the quality of the food and the service, regardless of what they were offering.
Yeah.
Um, in my head, originally, it was sort of get somewhere small to start, set that as the bar, the pinnacle, so that even if I opened a burgers and a chicken wing joint in a cool little pub in the countryside, people knew there'd be a certain level of
Yeah.
quality of the produce and blah blah blah. And so thankfully we managed to do that with the lamb. Always on the lookout. Back then, not many pubs going on the market, as opposed to last week and the week before, which I've never had so many emails of
Really?
sites. I used to get an email with one site for sale maybe every 2 weeks, and I think I've totted up about 32 sites in the last week.
Wow.
And these are good-looking places, but we can get to why.
Yeah.
But um, this site, we'd had about a wonderful reputation about it, and even our current neighbours next door to us, when they managed it and had it, you couldn't get a table on a Sunday. It had a
Yeah.
wonderful reputation. I mean, they did an amazing job with it. When they left, that's when it started
Okay.
to go downhill. And from the outside, if I can describe it, perhaps, Nick, so compared to an eight-seater little thatched property, the Bat and Ball has a huge patio with a gorgeous view over Oxfordshire. Inside, we can sit. I mean, I'm in it now. I've got eight, nine, 10. I've got about 16 tables. It's a big bar area, and also at the time, it had sort of seven, eight letting rooms.
Right.
From having had the lamb, it's very clear you can keep pushing the amount of covers, but you get stuck at a certain point of how many covers you can do,
Yeah.
and at what price point you're selling, and how many drinkers are coming in with that formula somewhere. There's a limit of what you can do. And if I could find somewhere that had rooms that were going at a decent rate, the overheads on those rooms and the income that you've got the possibility to get, that becomes a very supportive part of the
Yeah.
business if you get it right. And this place had, it was perfect size, like seven, eight bedrooms, if I could reduce them
Yeah.
to a manageable amount under all the red tape there is, that if you've got six bedrooms and above, what kind of things you need to have in place. If you have under six, it's a little
Yeah.
bit easier to run. And so it just felt right. And the space was easily changeable to how what I wanted it to look like without
Yeah.
spending a huge amount of money, because I knew I'd have to spend an awful lot in the kitchen to get it up to standard. And the rooms were in a state and they needed to be very much looked after.
Yeah.
So it was the perfect site. Also, 6 minutes away from the other pub
Yeah.
in a car. And I was like, wouldn't that be amazing if we run out of something, we can just drive down and we could share the kitchens and
Yeah.
on prep days. And we do. I mean, we go back and forth every day, grabbing extra napkins, saving money on one site,
Yeah.
cross transferring the at cost. I mean, it works. It's been really it's been good.
Okay. And I think it was then owned by was it Admiral Taverns that owned previously?
Yes, yes. So Admiral Taverns, much like a lot of the breweries, it's a essentially a property firm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And yeah.
and so did you have to persuade them hard to sell, or were they in the mode of selling anyway? Or
So originally we'd looked at it, not last year, the year before, and we spent 10 months trying to get in touch with them to say, look, it's not doing great. And then it was shut, and then you put someone in, and then it was shut, and
yeah.
we're really interested. No one talked to us. We had one chap we talked to, and it just never went anywhere. Um, it was then a little while after it being shut for a good year, nearly a good year, that they put a landlord in who spent a bit of money doing it up. And then after 2, 3 months, he said to the tavern group, you need to spend X to fix the roof, X to fix the ventilation in the kitchen, and the gas pipe's not big enough. And they turned around and went, absolutely not paying for it. And then overnight, he turned up with two removal vans, ripped everything out, cut all the cables, took the light bulbs, took the signs off the toilet doors, and good for him. And it was derelict.
Right.
And so I managed to get through to someone the next day and went, let me at it.
Okay. And so obviously that, that went through, but it sounds as though the pub was in quite a state. I mean, to get it to sort of your operating and standards. So that wasn't. How long did it take you to get operational? And I think your community communications were a little bit better than they were with the Lamb. Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely fair to say. So we got the keys in July, end of July, August. So this is 2024. Um, got the keys in August, went straight in. I'd lined people up to come and start having a look at it. And the lessons that I had learnt from the Lamb meant that I was looking at this site going, it's not going to get done quickly if you've just got one building firm.
Yeah.
So we had a kitchen contractor, a main restaurant contractor, an outside building contractor, and a contractor doing the bedrooms. So four different teams that I'd have to manage. None of them would say, "Oh, I don't have enough people today," and
Yeah.
all the rest of it. Um, the state of it, having not even had the heating switched on properly for a year and a half, meant that we had mold and mushrooms in bedrooms, and
Wow.
the walk-in fridge was literally alive when we opened the door. The agent, when we were there in like June, agent, me and Chef Nat opened the door, and we all retched, I'll be honest, because of the smell that was in there. So there was an awful lot of work. But because of splitting the teams up and keeping it all local, apart from an interior designer, Sally, who is from Chiswick in London in Insider Dealings, um, we started work in September, and by the end of mid-November, we were pretty good to go. It was just
Excellent.
fine tuning.
That is pretty quick, and
It was, yeah, it was quick, but it was one of those things, Nick, where literally with from the lessons learned, it was I'd done my Excel spreadsheet. I knew
yeah.
I was like, all the light fittings need to be the same fitting, all the plugs need to be the same plug, rip it all out, start again, because if I just try and make do, something's going to go wrong with the
Wrong, yeah.
electrics. And so it was just get on site every day. I was wearing gloves and hats and stuff. I couldn't get the heating on for, I mean, we only switched the heating on beginning of November.
Yeah.
So it was cold and not very nice.
Okay. And but you got it done, and you sort of launched on. So would it have been the 7th of January 25 that you just that you went full service? Was it? I think you.
Yes. Yeah. So we really wanted to get open as soon as possible for the locals. Again,
Yeah.
lessons learned. So we always had the door open. If anyone was walking outside and peering through the window, we
Yeah.
always used to go out and say, "Come on in and give them a tour," because that 5, 10 minutes of giving that one person a tour, they say to everybody, "This is what's happening," and it's all
Builds up a
coming
lot of
along.
goodwill.
It's goodwill, and you know what? It is an asset of community value, a
Yeah.
pub, right? I mean, every single pub is a community asset, and every single person who comes in, even if they just order a bowl of chips and a glass of whatever, I am thankful,
Yeah.
right? Every single pound that comes through the door, and these guys they're on the doorstep, and while you have a vision and you know what you want to deliver, you've got to listen a little bit as well.
Yeah.
What beers they'd like to have on,
Yeah.
maybe not, maybe. Um, so we said, let's open in December. Let's get them somewhere that they can have Christmas drinks with friends and
Yeah.
family. And that's what we did. We had it open in December. The whole of December was open for drinks. It was a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We didn't say that we were open on Google. We had one person come in and me come in as well, and it was literally just for the village. And
Yeah.
it wasn't just the village ended up. Word of mouth started. So it was quite busy in December. It was great. January, we opened on the 7th. The kitchen team came in on the January the 6th. They hadn't really worked together before. So it was a gamble, but they just nailed it. And we were in full service straight away,
Excellent.
um, doing 80 to 100 covers from day one.
Excellent. And so, just again, for people who perhaps, as you mentioned earlier, the the two pubs, the Lamb and the Bat and Ball, are very close, about 6 minutes drive. But if someone hasn't been to either, just give the sort of the difference in the experience. Obviously, the Lamb in terms of a number of covers is smaller, so, and obviously with its Michelin recognition, it's got presumably booking is advisable.
Yeah.
And but just in your own words, tell us a little bit of difference between the food offer at the Lamb and the Bat and Ball, so people can understand it, what they might get in each.
So I think first off the bat, the the service is not any different to the two sites, and I think that's
Yeah,
the key to the brand, let's call it, of Montgomery, right?
yeah,
So there are little hints at both sites, even
yeah,
before you look at the menu, that it's part of that family. So the cutlery and the stemware is the same, the uniforms are similar, the typeface, the branding, everything sort of points to it's part of the same family. So if you come to the Bat and Ball, hopefully you walk in and you go, oh, this is familiar, and you know that you're going to get looked after in the same way.
yeah,
Um, if I may jump in a little bit before I talk about the food, because I think that's really important. And I think that's something that's kind of lacking in hospitality at the moment, which is what I always wanted to sort of try and bring into it. Now, there are a lot of places that do what we do, but there's a lot of those places that are high street that kind of makes you a little bit sad. So if I used a high street company as an example, you can go to that pizza restaurant and you can spend 50 quid easily on two people,
yeah,
but you're going to get a dirty glass and you're going to get a very thin napkin and you're going to get a plate that's not been washed properly per se. And you're not going to get a smile and you're not going to be, look, no one's going
yeah,
to give you any attention. Now, you could come to either of my pubs and have something to eat for two people for probably under 30 quid if you're just
yeah,
coming for a snack. But boy, are you going to get looked after.
yeah,
And I think that's really key. So, how they differ in food is lamb is prefix at lunch during the week,
yeah,
28 quid for two courses, 32 for three. And then the a la carte is obviously no, not obviously. It's elevated dining, but it's not tweezery food, right?
yeah,
So it's still substantial. With prefix, you can't ever be substantial.
yeah,
The whole point is a light bite and an experience of what you'd
yeah,
get on an a la carte. Our Sunday roast at the Lamb are people don't ever tend to finish it, but that's kind of part of the joy of it. You are, I mean, a huge cuts of 32-day aged sirloin cooked in the wood-fired oven, sitting
yeah,
on your plate with a 3-day gravy. It's like gorgeous. You just want to devour it all, but you never can. Um, when you come to the Bad and Ball, when we got the Michelin guides and the one rosette here, people were a little bit worried that you were suddenly going to turn into the Lamb, but
yeah,
it's not. They can't compete. So we have a lunch menu and a dinner menu. And the lunch menu has things like fish finger sandwiches, and it will have your burgers, your halloumi burger, your gluten-free burger, your gluten-free hake and chips, and some more classics, ploughman's, a soup on the starters. So you've got sandwiches and soups. But when you get to the mains, then that's where Rick and the team here, they can have a little bit more fun. So slightly more elevated, but still at accessible pricing. So we don't have a lot that goes over £30. Very hard at the moment. Very, very hard not to be doing 32 to 38 in a pub like this, but we don't. And we always have grilled steak. And then when you get to dinner, we reduce those classics and we have more things on like duck breast and venison loin. So it's a little bit more elevated than a traditional pub, but you're still going to get
yeah.
it. And I think that's what shocked us about getting Michelin here is that was never on the table for us,
Right.
ever. Never talked about. Didn't even consider it because there's a darts board. There's people drinking pints. It's high vis during the day, and then it's families in the evening. And we've got a big kids menu and kids drawing with crayons in the early evening. They don't come later, don't worry. But you know, it's burgers and fish and chips, but it's also pan fried cod or halibut if you want it. And we never thought that blending those two and being accessible at that level would gain you Michelin guide. And you know, same problems that come with it, but we're still over the moon about it. And It's not a surprise when you come and you eat the cookery that's coming out of Rick's kitchen and the way that you're looked after, but it's still a bit of a shock given what the package is.
Yeah. Okie dokie. Oh, I mean that's it really says something to your vision that you maintain those standards and got the recognition in both venues. Okay, just talk to us a little bit about you've taken quite a you had a lot of experience running large teams before, so just talk to us a little bit about how you run the people side of it. Retention often difficult in that business, and keeping the morale up as well as delivering the great service. Talk to us a little bit about your people approach to the business.
So I think when it was getting crunch time to opening the Lamb Inn, I mean, everybody knows how difficult retention is in hospitality, even if you've never been in it.
Yeah,
Um, it's a very, what's the right word for it? I don't know what the word is, but people move around. Chefs tend
yeah,
to hang around for a year. They want to try something new. And I just thought, well, if you're going to look after them from the get-go, look after them well, but what does that look like? And having been in big corporate world, I just was like, let's just run it like a big, big, big business. So not in terms of people getting lost in the HR system,
yeah,
but in terms of what you can offer them and how you look after them and how often you talk
yeah,
to them. Um, and so we put in a firm called Krona for our HR, who look after us for a monthly fee. So everybody's looked after, everything's done legitimately. It's
yeah,
not just the pub owner upstairs, and it's not the latest update every April and October. It's legitimately looked at all the time. Staff handbooks way too big, but it's 164 pages, but
yeah.
it gives
Exactly.
everything, all the information. We're able to offer things like, you know, therapy sessions for nothing if people want it, and staff discounts on anything, holidays, TUI, flowers for the mother, whatever it is. We just taking that big company approach, and the sit downs and reviews, and not doing annual reviews, but whenever we think they're necessary, and pay rises go when we think that they
Yeah,
deserve it. And I think it's about also, while having that corporate structure, which is kind of difficult being such a small business. We're only 26 staff, but making that 26 staff also feel like four.
yeah,
So it's a family, and everybody looks out for each other. And anybody who is, let's say, talks behind people's backs, they are talked to rapidly, and
yeah,
it's clearly explained why. And from that, we've only had to let one person, well, two people go early on. One was for nicking, which is going to happen. Um, and the first was obviously our first chef. And then apart from that, we've not had to do it. And it's been wonderful. So we've had people in the business for 3 years. And here at the Bat and Ball, apart from people moving on to go to university
yeah.
or moving to different parts in the country because of family obligations, everybody's still here. And it's
Brilliant.
great.
Excellent. So, okay, let's talk a little bit about the general industry headwinds and how they've hit you. Things like cost pressures are generally intense, not just food, but obviously utilities, electricity in particular. I
Mm.
mean, there is a reality that everybody in hospitality is having to having to deal with that. So, how do you cope with that? And was it a shock when you went in, or were you pretty aware of the challenges when you went in?
Yeah, this is where if you do sound effects on your podcast, you need the dun dun dun. Um, this was, oh my God. I think the bigger shock was the electricity, the energy.
Yeah,
I don't know why I didn't really think about it, and very quickly realized no government oversight means they can do whatever they choose. And this is where you've got to be careful that I don't start swearing, because there are so many things that get you so rolled up at the moment and existing over the last 3.5 years. Electricity was the first one. When we bought the lamb, we were paying £2,500 a month, and Ukraine started to get bad, and then our bills went up to 7 grand a month.
well,
And that's immediately like, oh gosh, this isn't going to last. We managed to get it down, and it was only last month that I've managed to get our electricity, because that's the only energy supply we have there, down from £5,000 to £7,000 in the winter. That will now be more like three and a half, which means my
Okay.
summer bills will be below three. So that was a very jubilant day. Um, the rest really is just the state of the world.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's got worse and worse and worse. And it's not finger pointing just at hospitality; it's everybody. So farmers, I mean, man, they've got it bad.
Yeah.
But they are priced out. They're not making any money, so they need to be charging us more money. And the wholesalers, they're pricing. I mean, every little thing. If you look at the logistics of supply chain, from farmer to restaurant to out the door, um, everything's gone up. Fuel, feed, vet bills, and then getting the meat butchered, getting it to us, the transport of us, the upkeep, the amount of the chemicals it costs us to keep everything hygienic, everything's going up. And then even the cost of waste is going up. So it's inevitable that things are going to get worse unless somehow the country
Yeah.
changes. Then added with what's happened recently, that is, I'm going to use the word disgusting. Uh, what's happened not just to our business, but hospitality as a whole. I could talk about other industries, but they're not my area of expertise. Not that I'm an expert in this yet either. But, there's no wonder that pubs are shutting left, right, and centre.
Yeah.
The pubs near us at Christmas Eve were like, this is our last night, guys. There's no point. And there's part of me that goes, is there any point at the moment, especially at a small site like the Lamb? Because actually, I could close that for 8 months, bring my staff over to the Bat,
Yeah.
would lose the Michelin, would lose the rosettes, but I'd probably save myself the stress and the money by having it shut for 8 months. We're not going to do it,
Yeah.
but at the moment, until we know what Reeves is going to do with business rates and all the other things that we're coming across, it's an unknown.
Yeah. There's no way to run a
You
business,
know,
is it? When you,
Well, it's not, and to be honest, it's no way to run a government where you've got a department of the Treasury who go to change the business rates, but they didn't quite understand what the formula would do to businesses. And I can give you a very specific example with the Lamb Inn. So, in our first year of trading, it was coming out of COVID, and our business rates were £5,000, but we had full 100%. We didn't pay anything of it virtually because it was so low. Then we went to a 70% reduction, and then we went to a 40% reduction. The rates went up a little bit. It's about £6,000, £7,000. So we're paying like 5K. Now, what she said was, you're still going to have a 40% reduction in your business rates. Isn't that fabulous? And then you look at how the formula has changed our rateable value. So my rateable value now means that the pub is worth 20 something thousand pounds more than it was before, which means that I now lose that 40%. And it now means that my rateable value has gone up 60.3%. Well, we're an asset of community value. I don't have 1,000 people living in a small area around me.
yeah.
We have a post office, and those sort of extra deductions that you get for being in a certain radius of 1,000 people and the single asset in the community, that's gone. So where am I going to find 25 plus £1,000?
Yeah.
I'm not.
That's an awful lot of meals to sell.
Well, it is. And given the profit margin on our food,
Yeah.
it's dire when you make less than £1 on a pint,
Yeah.
and you have to sell that pint at £6.20. We kept our prices below £6, apart from on Guinness and Aspel's. At the time was Aspel's, because their prices were just too high and people were going to pay it. We kept our prices at £5.95 for about a year, and now we've had to whack them all up over £6. And
Yeah.
there's nothing I can do about it. And it's really sad.
Yeah. No, well, I understand that, but coming back hopefully to a slightly more optimistic sort of tone, notwithstanding having to deal with those things, what does the future look like for you? Would you take on more sites if one came available? I know you're getting a lot coming through, but
Oh, yeah, gosh, I would love to. If the means were there, you'd do it tomorrow to keep a community asset open and build that back up around village or villages. Um, right now, absolutely not.
yeah,
Absolutely not. But the hope is that if everybody can get through this
yeah,
and things start to turn around and we show that we're profitable back again, which we are, but it's very, very small,
yeah.
because of what's happening at the moment, then yes, absolutely. I'd love to. I definitely want more. I
And
love it.
your dream, would that be in the broad South Oxfordshire area, or would you go further
I
afield?
think, no, I mean, look, Oxfordshire's a phenomenal county. It's got everything and it's beautiful and the people are lovely. And why wouldn't you want to start a business here?
Yeah,
And in terms of me personally, yes. And it might just be slightly more towards London because that's
right.
where home and family is. Um, but the surrounding Oxford area, there's a lot of scope for a lot of different types of pubs, restaurants. Um, and we've seen a couple of sites before the budget came out last year, and you just go, wouldn't that be a wonderful place to do X?
Yeah,
And the amazing staff there, and they're going to lose their jobs, but they're amazing, and you want to like help, don't
yeah,
lose your job. So um, the big vision, Nick, is a lot more, with a lot more happy customers and a lot more happy staff. That
yeah.
would bring me joy.
Excellent. Well, that at least that's a positive note to Dwayne. Let's hope you get there for the benefit of obviously Montgomery Hospitality and taking what you've learned into a wider field, but also for the hospitality industry as a whole. So look, Ben, thank you so much for telling us that fascinating story. Starts with starting in hospitality, then quite a change into broadly the marketing and media world, and then making a career pivot back into hospitality. So we've talked about differentiation, people first culture, and the realities of a pretty tough industry. So just in terms of if people want to visit the Lamb or the Bat and Bull, you can go onto Montgomery Hospitality, and there's a landing page that will take you to
Both
eat,
sites. Yep.
or you can just search the Bat and Bull at Cuddesdon. Am I right in saying that?
That's right. I mean, you should be able to just do Bat and Ball Oxfordshire and
Okay,
Lamb in Oxfordshire, and it'll pull you in.
brilliant.
Or
Well, look,
um, yeah,
I think the story here is that great pubs aren't built just by chasing growth. They're built by sweating the details, caring about people, and staying true to the community and delivering a great product, which I think certainly you've done. I wish you every success in continuing to do
thank
that.
you,
And thank you for telling us your story. That's great.
Nick. It's been a pleasure, and thank you for talking to me. I appreciate it.